Hello students, now we are going to deal with the most important concept of Plato in Republic, that is the concept of justice. Yesterday also I gave you some views, some idea about his conception of justice, and I told you that in his book Republic, the most important theme that he discusses is the theme of justice. Fine. And that is why the subtitle of this book is Concerning Justice. Fine. So, Republic. In Republic, Plato has discussed his ideal state. His ideal state. Fine. So, ideal state, Plato uses the word Callipolis. So, even if you don't remember, there is no problem. Fine. He calls his ideal state as Callipolis. Now, ideal state and its discussion, that is a domain of politics. Justice. What does the justice means? God does justice. Justice means right and wrong. The right conduct and the wrong conduct. That is justice. Fine. So basically, justice is righteousness. Justice, doing justice. There is a difference between justice and law. What is justice? Righteousness. Fine. So justice is righteousness means ness, goodness. So this is quality. This is quality, or this is idea. Fine. So justice basically means a code of conduct. There is a right way of doing things and there is a wrong way of doing things. So justice or righteousness is about the right conduct. What is right and what is wrong. And when you do something right, you feel good. When you do something wrong, you feel guilty, you feel bad. Fine. So, code of conduct and what is right and what is wrong. This comes in the domain of ethics. This comes in the domain of ethics. So, discussion of politics and the discussion of ethics. So, how to look at his book, Republic? This book is about what? We can say that we can look at Republic as a book on justice, or a book of politics, and a book of ethics. Is this point clear? So in your copies you write, what is the subject matter of Plato's book Republic? What is the subject matter of Plato's book Republic? Okay. Now I am using one word. Treatises. Treatises. Fine. So in your copies you write, Republic is a treatise on. Republic is a treatise on A. Politics, B. Ethics. Republic is a treatise on politics and ethics. So what is the subject matter of Republic? Politics and ethics. So Republic is the treatise of politics and ethics. Fine. What is a treatise? Write it down. What is a treatise? Treatise is a book. Treatise is a book which deals with single subject. Treatise is a book which deals with single subject. Certain books have multiple subjects. Fine. So treatise is a book that deals with single subject. Okay. Next, write, from the perspective of Plato. Not for everybody, but write, from the perspective of Plato, there is no difference in politics and ethics. From the perspective of Plato, there is no difference in politics and ethics. Fine. What does it mean? Right, it means politics without ethics. Politics without ethics is not acceptable. So politics without ethics is dangerous. Fine. The politics without ethics is corrupt. Politics without ethics can never give you good governance. Fine. So write further. It means the political questions have to be seen as essentially ethical questions. the political questions have to be seen essentially as the ethical questions. Understand the importance of these statements. You can get this in your ethics paper. You can get this in your essay also. So, the questions of politics, they are essentially the questions of ethics. So, for the right, it means for the problems in politics, the solution is in ethics. For the problem in politics, the solution is in ethics. Solution is not in the law. The problem of corruption in Indian politics, for example, defection, the solution is not in anti-defection law. The solution is until the philosophers become the rulers, which means until the ethical persons who have the knowledge of right and wrong, or rulers learn philosophy, there is no end to the predicament of human life. Now, what is the biggest problem in India today? The biggest problem of Indian politics is the lack of ethics. The biggest problem of Indian politics is not only we are lacking in the ethics in social, personal sense, we are even not following the constitutional ethics. We are not even following the constitutional morality. Okay, so the purpose of my discussion was you understand that the real politics is ethics and the distorted form is politics. So ethics is righteousness, politics is power. Fine. So ethics is the original idea of politics. The original idea of politics is ruler should be right. The original idea of politics is ruler should work in the interest of the people. But the distorted idea is that the rulers are working in their self-interest. And the question is, how ruler can work in the interest of the people? For that, ruler should have the knowledge of how it will benefit them when they will work for the people. So when they will work for the people, they will be working for not just the satisfaction of their physical body, they will be working for the satisfaction of their souls. But to know this, ruler has to be knowledgeable. Is this point clear? So, ethics means the right politics. For right politics, you should know what is right. So, you can be ethical only when you are knowledgeable. Fine. So if you do not have a knowledge, you can't be ethical. If you are not ethical, you can't be good. So basically, knowledge is virtue, or virtue is knowledge. Okay. So the main reasons or the main topic of discussion in Republic is politics and ethics. Okay. Now, why, write in your copy, why Plato goes for the discussion of justice. Why Plato goes for the discussion of justice. Why he discusses justice? Fine. Because, right, because Plato wants to create the ideal state. Wants to create the ideal state, or in Greek, Kallipolis. He wants to create the ideal state or Kallipolis. So ideal state has to be based on the idea of justice. So yesterday also I told you that state stands for justice. Okay, so according to Plato, justice is the supreme virtue of the state. So justice is the supreme virtue of the state. Write it down. Why Plato discusses justice? Because he wants to create an ideal state. Ideal state has to be based on the idea of justice. Fine. Now, next write, according to Plato, justice is the supreme virtue. Right? According to Plato, justice is supreme virtue. Virtue is what? Excellence. Fine. So justice is a supreme virtue. Excellence means, right, it means justice is the virtue of all virtues. I am going slow so you can write side by side. Justice is the virtue of all virtues. Okay. So write it down. If justice does not exist, if justice does not exist, all other virtues will become meaningless. Right? In the absence of justice, other virtues will not have significance. Fine? So, justice is a virtue of all virtues, and we will have to understand why justice is the virtue of all virtues. Okay. So, in the second paragraph, or in the second, for your understanding, you can write what are other virtues. Okay, so what are other virtues? So write, the other virtues are knowledge, courage, temperance, if these virtues do not accompany justice, do not come with justice, if these virtues do not come with justice, these virtues cannot achieve their virtue. These virtues cannot blossom. These virtues cannot be realized in the true sense. Fine. So you will have to we have to understand why justice is the supreme virtue. Because even these virtues do not accompany justice, it can result into havoc. For example, a scientist having a knowledge of human or having a knowledge of atoms, and if he invents a weapon of mass destruction, so actually he is not doing justice with his work. Similarly, the beauty. Similarly, my passions. If for any work I cannot achieve excellence if I don't do justice. So justice, according to Plato, is the supreme virtue. Only when other virtues get combined with justice, they appear, they will emerge in their full bloomed form. Okay, so now let us connect the dots again. The purpose of life is happiness. Happiness comes by excellence. Excellence will require knowledge. The most important knowledge that you require is what is justice. Because if you do not have justice, the other knowledge and virtues will not be important, will not be of use. Fine. So, what does Plato discusses in his theory of justice? Fine. So, what exactly, write it down, what exactly Plato is discussing in his theory of justice. What exactly Plato is discussing in his theory of justice? So Plato is discussing two things. What is justice? Second thing is, why should we be just? What is the use to be just? Fine. So it's not important to know what is justice. It is actually more important to know why you should be just. So Plato's theory of justice focuses on understanding what is justice and why should we be just. Now, Plato doesn't do preaching, this is justice. His approach is not didactic. So Plato is trying to establish justice on the basis of logic. Okay, so Plato uses dialectics, and yesterday I told you about certain characters with whom Plato goes for dialectics. So the dialectics is a process by which our opinions get filtered, decluttered, and we attain the true knowledge. Means our thoughts may have contradictions. These contradictions are removed and our thoughts become logically consistent. Logically consistent rather than contradictory. Fine. So this is what can be explained through the steps. Thesis, contradiction is antithesis, and the pure knowledge is synthesis.